Yeah, this is a PSA for everyone who is learning how to play fighting games, has started learning how to play fighting games in the predominantly online COVID era, uh, and then they're going to their first ever meetups and local interactions, right? If you see two people playing at a casual setup and you would like to play with them, here's what you do. You walk up to them. Ideally, you wait for like a little bit of a lull in the action, like a round break or a set break, and you say stuff like, "Hey, yo, can I get next? Is anyone waiting here? Oh, you mind if I get in?"
Get in that ass.
You can even say, "Get in that ass," if you want to. I cannot guarantee that it will give you the results that you're looking for, but hey, it is better than just sitting there and hoping that senpai will notice you. Listen, I understand that the polite and considerate thing to do as someone playing at that setup is to look around periodically and be like, "Hey, do you want next?" I do that on occasion. But if I'm sitting there trying to get some tournament warm-up matches in, or I'm playing with someone, you think I want to get up? No, but I will get up if people communicate their needs. This is the important part here, all right? When you are playing fighting games with strangers, you need to communicate your needs so that they can take them into account instead of asking the strangers to assume what you want. Do not ask them to do anything, not because they're not nice people, but because if they're strangers, you do not know whether they're nice people or not. And you do not want your well-being and your needs to be in the hands of people when you don't know if they're nice or not, right? Now I'm fucking nice. You see my chip combos? We know this, right? But yes, I understand people have social anxiety. I understand people will just sit there locked up forever because they feel like they're not allowed to play the game because they're too bad, or they don't want to disrupt other people from playing the game. Listen, fighting games are zero sum. Every time I put you in hit stun, I am stopping you from playing the game. If you do not feel good about stopping people from playing a fighting game, you might be in the wrong game. The entire job here is to stop the other person from playing the game. That doesn't make you an asshole. It makes you a fighting game player. Story time. I was once 16. That was when I started going to arcades. 16 was actually pretty young for playing fighting games in arcades back then because for a bunch of reasons, but the first arcade that I ever felt like super intimidated by was the UC Berkeley Bearcade. This is the arcade that would later become my home. Now, I was intimidated for multiple reasons. One, I heard that was where the best players in the East Bay went, and goddamn, did I want to play the best players in the East Bay? I wanted to get fucking fucked up, right? But two, I was 16, not a college student, and three, they had this big ass sign out front that said Cal ID required. Now, no one actually enforced this. The sign was there mostly to keep out punk ass kids and also to have an excuse to boot people out if they were misbehaving and were not UC Berkeley students. But I didn't know that. However, I was over 6 feet at the time. So if I walked in there and just held my shit, no one would ever suspect me of not being a college student. In fact, even though I played at Berkeley for many years, and some of my friends from the arcade thought that I was a Berkeley student for literal decades after the arcade closed, I was never a Berkeley student. I was awkward as fuck. The only time that I ever really talked to people there was if I went there with friends that I knew outside of that arcade, right? It wasn't until people hit me up. Actually, it was on the way to a meetup. Like, people recognized me outside of the Bearcade. And they were from the Bearcade, and they're like, "Hey, I know you from the Bearcade," and that's how we got talking. Right? I understand the anxiety. I too was an awkward kid, younger than most of the awkward kids and awkward young adults responding in my shit here. Right? Yes, it is. Sometimes you just want the comfort of being able to sit down and play a video game with other people, but you don't actually want to fucking talk to them. I get it, but you got to do it. That is actually one of the most powerful things you can get out of fighting games. You could play any fighting game for 10 years. You could become a world champion at it. And despite that, the most powerful thing that you would get from that experience is probably not the actual skill of playing the game. It is, and I hate to be cliched, but it's the truth, the friends you made along the way that matter, right? And you don't make those friends if you are not willing to sit down and say, hey, can I get next? Tasty John, thank you for the sub. Yeah, literally everyone who shows up to a fighting game meetup is most likely awkward as fuck, or was awkward as fuck at one time, right? Sometimes we're still awkward as fuck, but because we know how the social space works around fighting games, and we're around people we've been playing with for a long time, it is no longer awkward because we all know who each other are and how each other behave. Fact is, at Game Center, there are awkward motherfuckers rolling up in there. They've been there for years, right? Most of the really good players are awkward as fuck. Bear, you can see Bears in my mentions here saying, not gonna lie, I was kind of hesitant to ask for next at Caliburst because I didn't want to take over a setup from people grinding stuff. Bears, literally anyone in that building would be proud and honored to play you. They would be flattered by the attention. Daymendo is actually really good at getting next. He's also really good at just skulking in the background, right? As befits a vampire, let's be honest. All of this is to say, no, it's not supposed to be easy. I've brought people to their first couple offline sessions. Espada, thank you so much for the sub. Yes, you can absolutely get next when I see you at Tag In, but you'll probably be busy running those brackets. All this is to say, like, everyone has been here before, right? And yes, it is always lovely when you can when you don't have to do this, right? If someone asks you, if someone invites you to the setup, that's fucking great. I highly encourage people to do that. But listen, you gotta be able to quarter up, or if you can't quarter up with an actual quarter, like physically quarter or verbally quarter up, right? Tell people what you need in life. If you are not willing to tell people what you need in life, you will not have any room made for you ever. So please, from one awkward nerd to another. Look, arcades taught me how to interact with people without being like super weird and awkward about it, okay? So if you do this long enough, eventually you'll make it seem as easy as I do. And exactly like Chastity is saying, if you, in 2021, are rolling up to a grimy-ass garage or some weird-ass esports event or someone's house or whatever the fuck to play a fighting game in person, you already have more in common with everyone else there than you do with almost anyone that you will ever meet in your entire life. Your entire life. Just by virtue of being in the same place at the same time, doing some shit like playing Plus R or whatever, you are around people who might as well be your siblings, and you will have never talked to most of them. So just fucking talk to them. I know it's hard. I know you're just gonna sit there and go, but you gotta do it. And listen, this might help demystify things a little bit. So the homie Johnson got this excellent clip from NorCal Dogfight. We got Empty Setup. We got Rev 2. Hey, shoutouts to Rev 2. We got, what the fuck? Is someone really just put up the Spider-Man 2 DVD up on a setup?
Oh, what?
And they let it rock to the point where it ran to the credits? The best thing about this is that this motherfucker did it the day before as well. He put on Virtua Fighter 5. He was labbing. I think it was Genesis Frenzy. Who's this kid who's been coming? I first saw him coming to Street Fighter 5 tournaments on launch like 5 years ago, right? This dude rolls up, puts VF5 up on a setup. No one's playing with him, but it doesn't matter. He labs for like an hour or something, and then he puts on Spider-Man and he watches Spider-Man. Sometimes you might just leave Spider-Man up, right? That's it. If you got this weird ass motherfucker out here doing shit like that and nobody cares, right? And what's more, this dude's been coming. He wins tournaments every now and then. He was like really good at Street Fighter 5, right? He does this shit and everyone's just like, yo, that's kind of cool. Whatever, man. Spider-Man 2, let's fucking go. You can do it. You can ask for next. The worst that someone will say is no. And then you can just call them an asshole and move on to the next setup.